Well, what the hell? I guess it's day again. Looks that way. Good evening. Welcome to Brewing Controversy. That guy is David. This guy is Lucas. Hope you're doing great out there, internet. It's that time of the week again when we sit together, we sip, gulp, and swig on some beautiful craft beer samples, do some reviews in between some bitching, grousing, moaning, and occasionally gloating about the state of politics and social topics in our world and our nation. Of course, with a leftist slant. It's not left and right, despite our coded attire this evening. But I am wearing my Monday night shirt that I bought. If you missed it last week, we did a unified review thing where we tried the same beers from Monday Night Brewing with me fresh out of Atlanta. And this is the Monday night T-shirt that I purchased in the gift shop there at Monday Night Brewing. So welcome to Brewing Controversy. Glad you're here. David, I'm glad you're here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Tired. Football season has started, so my existence is a little bit rough. So yeah, got to watch last Sunday. Got to watch the Titans busily find a way to lose. Your Lions didn't do much better, but
I haven't paid any attention.
We all got to see Karen Rodgers take a dive against Minnesota, so that was special.
Yeah, I have not been paying any attention to any of the mild keep up with what's going on back home or even what's going on here. So
I've noticed.
I am successfully agnostic in my sports concerns most of the time. Now, Predators start playing again, then of course that's right. Time for me to pay attention, and that's pretty soon, right?
It's coming up. It's coming up. I'm honestly this year. You know, I was talking about it with Rob, and I'm just gonna be happy if we finish respectably this year. That's my hope. That's my hope.
Well, I
don't want us to be the Ducks.
That's fair. When we get to the point that season starts off, you will, of course, see us frequently in Go Preds mode.
Go Preds. Go Preds. Go Preds.
Oh,
tighten up. Go Preds.
Oh, my goodness. So basically, the flow, if you're unfamiliar, is we kick off with a little thing called the Hot Take Happy Hour. And we've kind of narrowed that down into a lot more contained topics lately. And now we've been experimenting with this fun little ticker so that at any time, if you come wandering in, like, what the hell are these two on about? You can just read the bottom of the screen to see what in the world we might be talking about. And tonight, David, you're kicking off the hot takes. You've got the first one, so let's have it, man.
Jesus. So, I mean, this for those of you who haven't been paying attention, so Brett Favre has now become ensnared in what has become the biggest instance of welfare fraud in U.S. history.
I didn't get to follow this story, so I'm actually learning from you as we speak.
Yeah, so this is now the biggest instance of welfare fraud in U.S. history. So for those of you who aren't aware, here are the facts. So Brett Favre approaches former governor of Mississippi to ask what the state of Mississippi can do to help with Brett Favre wanting to build a new volleyball court for SMU. Which is coincidentally I forget if it's actually his alma mater or whatever, but his daughter is going there now, and of course they come hat in hand to all the celebrities and be like, "Hey, your offspring's here. Mm-hmm. You should send money," because really that's what higher education needs in America right now is more big ticket donations for volleyball stadiums. So anyway, the governor then ropes in the Secretary of, I want to say Health and Human Services in Mississippi, which is responsible for dispersing welfare payments. The federal government dispersed a massive amount, tens of millions of dollars, to the state of Mississippi which, by the way, rejects 90% of welfare applicants in the state. This former governor approaches this woman, Secretary New is her name, and she thinks it's just a grand idea to take this welfare money that's supposed to go to poor Mississippians and put it towards a volleyball stadium. Now, here's where it gets funny. Is first, this former governor gets into his head. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know what was happening." The secretary says, "Oh, I didn't know that this was about." And Brett Favre is busily standing there on the sidelines being like, "Oh, I didn't know any of this, how all this was happening." And then someone got a hold of all their text messages.
Womp womp.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, spaghetti-o. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly that they were committing a fraud. It looks like Brett Favre, if he didn't strongly suspect, he outright knew, right, that they were stealing welfare money.
Unbelievable, but believable also, because these kinds of right-wing pricks are very much all the same in that regard. So I typically do a little lingual rebellion. I refuse to refer to him as Brett Favre. I was joking with David earlier. I'm going to try to find a way during the whole show to say Favre. I was telling David, I don't know if that's legit and somehow just a really weird mashup of letters, or if when he was in high school, some meathead coach was like, "I can't say that. You're Favre." And he just stuck with it.
It gets worse. I just want to point out.
If you're here, say hello, by the way. Olivia's here. Hello. Brian's here. Heidi ho. And as always, some quality snark from Ava, whichever way I need to say that. Fuck Brett Favre for being a narcissistic shitbag and a greedy fucking asshole to boot. That's a pretty good summary of it.
But I just want to point out, this gets better in one aspect. So when people started to realize that this money was missing from the welfare fund, right, from the welfare budget, they went looking for it, and of course they found it at SMU. So then they launched an investigation, right? Oh no, this is government corruption. We should do something about this. They launched an investigation. Well, when the prosecutor they assigned to the case started saying, "Okay, I'm going to start handing out subpoenas," he got fired. So now it looks not only did they commit fraud, but likely obstruction of justice as well.
So it's big time.
Yeah, this is going to be bad. This is going to be real bad for a lot of people in Mississippi because, as always, and this is America. You can screw with women's uteruses. You can screw with people trying to keep guns out of schools. You can screw with liberals and leftists all day long on minorities, and small incremental things will be done. But if you screw with money, oh boy, man, you don't touch the money. You don't touch the money.
Yeah. How to pronounce "I am a sentient mass of sliding snow and rocks." Well, next up on our list of fun happy hour engagements, I think it's to me this time, isn't it?
Yep.
So please note, like my topic a couple weeks ago, that David just could not quit talking over until I converted to the end of the punchline that I couldn't get to because he was so busy being obsessed. Martha's Mexican Vineyard is actually about Venezuelans, but we're putting it in terms that Republicans can understand, and they only have one term for brown people from south of the border. Doesn't matter what nation they hail from. They're all Mexicans. And on the thought that they are all Mexicans, one of the chief assholes flew a whole couple plane loads full of them Mexicans, Venezuelans, to Martha's Vineyard. An estimated 50 migrants arrived on Martha's Vineyard Wednesday on 2 planes, according to Massachusetts State Senator Julian Sear, a Democrat who represents Martha's Vineyard. The 2 planes arrived just after 3 p.m., and white vans took the migrants to Martha's Vineyard Community Services. And this is a stunt now claimed by dickhole Governor DeSantis in Florida.
Now, can I say something now?
You're going to talk about trafficking, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about trafficking
Yeah,
because
this
how
shit-
the hell isn't this trafficking?
this
How
shit-
the hell isn't this trafficking? I mean, Abbott doing it was bad. And it was still trafficking. I don't understand how these people are like, oh, these people arrived in our state, and now we are going to forcibly. These people do not have a choice, right? They do not have a choice about getting on the plane. They do not have a choice about where they're going.
And apparently they were confused. They didn't know where they were going, and
Yeah.
they didn't really get told either at all or the truth. And
I mean, DeSantis, his head of law enforcement, and Abbott's as well, both need to be arrested for human trafficking at this point, because you don't just put people onto a plane or onto a bus and tell them that they have to. At that point, they're in custody, right? You have just illegally arrested. I mean, you can arrest them for the crime, for a crime, right?
Mhm.
But you can't just take people, shove them on a bus, and say you have to leave and you have to go here.
The best part of this for me is that, like so many other instances of these shitheels catching the car, they're sending these people to places that treat people better. So all that's happened now is that the communities that they've been dropped off in are basically treating them with dignity and respect and helping them, proving once again the fact that liberals give a shit about humanity more than fucking conservatives. It's kind of hilarious to watch them flounder with this. Like on Looney Tunes.
No, I mean it's Wile E. Coyote, and again, the Republicans keep on finding ways this entire election season to, find again, it's now the tail wagging the dog, right? It's their most extreme elements controlling everything that they do. I don't see Bernie Sanders like on the tiller right here on the ship of the Democratic Party. I don't see AOC explicitly guiding policy. Now, are they going to push from their side? Absolutely, and they should. But on the other hand, Delaney is going to push from his end as well. And obviously, President Manchin is going to push from his end, right? I mean, there's no like radical leftist bent that I'm seeing here. Except on the Republican side, we just keep on getting more and more extreme. I mean, Graham and his whole, this should be a states' rights issue. Until I decided that now the tail wants to wag the dog again.
I mean,
we want to have a national abortion ban.
It's stunt city, dude. Like the fucking Senate nominee in New Hampshire entirely 100% flipped on the big lie today. Now that he's won nomination, now he's saying, "Oh yeah, Trump lost the election. I want to be very clear about that. I now understand that after further research, indubitably." Like, yeah, asshole, you understood that the first fucking time. You were just lying so that you could get the votes of these fucking morons. And now he expects, independents in the live free or die state to take off their seatbelt. Wait, no, they don't wear seatbelts. So to not take off their seatbelt, but hop out of their car and vote for him anyway.
Yeah,
it's amazing the stunts that these guys are pulling, and they're doing everything they can to distance themselves from the shittiest decisions that they've made. And I think these stunts are going to really flip on these assholes, and I can't wait to see how.
And they are flipping. I mean, it is causing problems.
Well, anywho, the other news of the day. Apparently, China is not so totally hip on Putin's miserable failures. When China sees your personal ego trip grudge war for what it is and starts asking some questions of what Putin himself has described as concerns, it's not looking good. If you can't get China to support your bullshit, you're running out of people to support your bullshit.
Well,
and this is his failure in the south and the east, of course, and then there's a northern offensive that you were looking into,
which is, I mean, part of the reason China's turning around is that Russia has just lost the entire all their gains over the past 5 months in northeastern Ukraine. They're gone. The Ukrainians.
Can we just enjoy and savor for a minute the fake out? Like, what a basic but brilliant thing Ukraine pulled on those fucking assholes.
Mhm.
You know, we're gonna go south. Hey, everybody, we're gonna go south. We're gonna do this big offensive in the south. Somebody tell the internet we're going to the south. Hey, pass it on. We're going to the south. Cool. Now we're gonna go east, bitches. And it worked. That's the best part.
It's because I mean this is the problem with authoritarian government and government that tries to run off of Facebook and Twitter, right? Like Trump. I mean,
Yeah.
the authoritarians love Facebook and Twitter because they can use it for mass misinformation, but they also, on the other hand, try and use it to find out what's going on because no one actually wants to tell them what's going on.
Right.
And they're looking at this vox populi, right? Of everyone saying the big push is towards Kherson in the south, which honestly there is a push towards Kherson in the south. I mean, and the Ukrainians made clear that they are pushing towards Kherson. They would very much like to retake Kherson, but what that caused the Russians to do was to take all those forces that were in the northeast and send them back, send them to the south. We need more reinforcements. We need more reinforcements. And the Ukrainians are sitting there going, keep doing that. Keep doing that. Keep listening to Facebook. Keep listening to Twitter. And they're gone. Okay, let's go.
It really is brilliant. It's actually, I'm never gonna get over it and not be pissed off that the United States / Uncle Joe did not respond by straight up blowing shit out of the sky and protecting the airspace day one. I will always hold against him that he was a fucking pussy about this war. But if we're going to have to play the long game and it's going to have to drag out and be the ridiculous mess that it is, at least it's an enjoyable mess right now to watch Ukraine not only kicking their ass when the occasion presents itself, but the gloating is also just so damn beautiful. I will also never get over that Independence Day parade of bombed out Russian tanks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not only that, they took 2 battalions of Russian tanks intact.
Mm-hmm.
And aircraft.
They have a shitload of gear now.
Yep.
And the reports that I was watching yesterday talked about how they're well versed in the Soviet era equipment. And then they're having all this high tech shit from the rest of us thrown into the mix. So they're basically becoming the best of both worlds kind of scenario. It's like they have a Model T with nitro at this point. Like it's these two ends of development of the gear that they're combining consistently, and they were showing bunkers that like the command had to run out of, and they were making the point that if the Russian command stays on the run, then they can't do the job of command, which is beneficial in the long run to the entire disarray needed to fuck them really hard.
And the problem is right now there were reports of Ukrainian forces penetrating as far as the capital of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, one of those wannabe breakaway puppet states in the east. So the Russian military in the northeast of Ukraine has apparently essentially collapsed. They have no idea what's going on. And the problem that they're having in the south is that the Ukrainians smartly have blown all the bridges that they would use to resupply their forces. So they're having to, use these makeshift routes to get supplies and men to the southern front. And now they have no way except through even smaller corridors to get those supplies to them, which now begins to put the South back in play again.
Yeah. I'm totally here for it. It would be great to see this turn around in a major way, even turn into an out-and-out defeat by the end of the year.
Well, I mean, and it's the problem is it's probably not going to be an out-and-out defeat by the end of the year, but something's got to move because winter's coming, and Eastern European winter is not something that anyone ever has enjoyed ever. But I mean, that's why China's doing this. That's why China's giving them this idea, because now, before it was Russia might be able to impose a peace that they could chalk up to a win, that they could, put to their propaganda folks as a win. Oh, we held on to the Crimea and We held on to the eastern portions of Ukraine that we had already essentially occupied. We beat back the Ukrainians by continuing to hold what we already held. Now it's becoming more and more unlikely that without drastic intervention, in other words, the Russians having to do something really stupid, that they can even hold on to that. Right now, the Ukrainians are setting up a scenario in which they push the Russians entirely out of Ukraine, and that's why China's looking at them going, "You're a loser. You started this war without proper equipment. You aren't a very good ally. Right now, the only thing that you can't even offer us the money." I mean, that's part of it. Is the Russians have been paying the Chinese on the side to keep their money hidden from Western sanctions. Well, the problem is that the money that they're paying them to keep the rest of their money hidden is running out, and the Chinese know it.
Yeah. Well, and Brian pointed this out earlier. We had it up on the screen. China's all about the blingy blingy.
Yep.
They follow the winner, which, I mean, that's the mental image there is about what you'd expect. Like, I'm going to go over here now. That's the extent of the loyalty.
It's in China's political interest now to distance themselves from Russia.
Right.
They're going to get more traction off of their fight with Taiwan and control the South China Sea. Yeah. Z, I mean, that's where it is.
She'd be like, "Bitch, better have my money." And,
well, no, because we know what they've been doing, which is the Russians we knew the Russians had built this giant hard currency reserve war chest in case sanctions hit. And we knew they left some of it out in the open because they didn't think that it would be the sanctions would be as bad as they were. They didn't think the reaction would be as bad as it was. And they assumed that, okay, if we can score a quick, easy victory in Ukraine, maybe a few months and we'll get our money back, right? But that's not happened. That obviously isn't happening.
No.
So they lost the part of their money that they had in the open. The rest of their money, they funneled through China into bearer bonds, a lot of which they're hiding out in Belgium. But they're technically Chinese held, right? It's technically Chinese bearer bonds. So the sanctions can't touch them. But the problem is, if you're handing it over those bearer bonds, okay, here's $20 million for this month. Here's $50 million for this month. Here's $100 million for this month. And the Chinese are looking at, like, how long can you keep paying us to hide your bonds?
Right.
You're running out of money.
It's fun to watch. I can't wait to see it completely collapse. More than looking forward to it. So you're taking us home on the happy hour. You're closing us out, sir.
I am, because, and this is going to lead into our last one. The Washington Post had this opinion piece that I just found so radically stupid. It boggled my mind. And it was this whole idea of, the United States isn't capable. Basically, what the article said, the United States isn't capable of import substitution today. And here's what struck me as so stupid about it. No, we are perfectly capable of import substitution today, right? If we wanted to build a manufacturing plant to make Hot Wheels toy cars as opposed to China, we could do that today. And honestly, I think one of the things that we've learned from COVID is that this eternal race to lengthen your supply chain in the name of finding the lowest possible cost for every little item has significant downsides. The supply chain problems that we've been seeing everywhere, this is the downside, right? We've lengthened, and I know I preach on this show about it, but I mean, this is the problem. And this is why we now should really take another look at bringing some of this manufacturing back to the US, is that these lengthened supply chains of, I have a factory that makes just the stitching in Jakarta because it's cheapest in Jakarta. I have a factory in Shanghai that makes just the gray fiber, not the blue, just the gray for the car seat. And then I have another factory in India that makes just the blue fiber. And the justification for all of this has always been, hey, it's cheap. Well, I get my blue fiber so much cheaper in India. And
I've never been able to imagine how all of it actually pans out to be cheaper.
Because
with all the shipping and all the transportation and all the changing, like, I don't get it.
Because the thing that they hate most is paying for labor. That's why. The thing that they hate most, the thing that investors hate to see, is that you have paychecks on your balance sheet. Right?
Heaven forbid you pay human beings to make a fucking living.
This is why tech companies, you want to know why tech exploded in the US and not someplace else? Because investors love the idea of, I can build a company and not have to employ 100 people. I don't have to employ anyone at a register. I don't have to employ a stock boy. I don't have to employ a maintenance department. I don't have to employ, any sort of engineering team to keep my factory up and running. I just have to sit back wherever I am at a computer and I can make you money. And they love that. That's why tech exploded in the US, is because the American capitalist class does not like paying people to do work. And as a consequence, that's why American manufacturing left, right? It doesn't, and I want to point out, this is not good economics. This is not good logic of what they've done, right? This does not make sense, because you're right. It's the shipping. It's all, and honestly, for a long time, when the shipping was cheap, it made sense. But now we've gotten to a point where the shipping isn't cheap anymore. Right. It can't be, because the system broke. It fell down. And now it has to be restarted again. This incremental, like, oh, okay, we've got this ship, and we've got all these schedules, down to a finally Coke, right? Getting a Coke in Nashville, Tennessee has become a problem.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know this.
Because the syrup plant can't get the ingredients it needs to make the syrup to put into the Coke, to can or bottle or do any of it. If you wanted, and you talk to anyone, you talk to any location, you go to your convenience store, you're like, hey, it looks like you're all out of Coke. They're like, yeah, we haven't had a truck in a week and a half. You go to the grocery store, the shelves are empty.
And is this in reference to the bottling plant that's right there in the south side of downtown Nashville?
The bottling plant cannot get the syrup.
That's fascinating and weird.
And it's because we've lengthened the supply.
Makes me glad I live in a state that's an equal opportunity Coke Pepsi space.
Yeah, well, I mean, that a lot of people, a lot of companies have switched entirely to Pepsi, because Pepsi doesn't seem to be having the same problem. Mostly because Pepsi hasn't been that popular.
Yeah.
And now they are having problems getting Pepsi in, because
there's a run on it.
Now there's a run on it. But anyway, back to the point. We lengthen these supply chains thinking that if I can just pay someone else for the product and just have a final assembly point, like a bottling plant.
Yeah.
Then, that's the best possible outcome. But in reality,
no. Brian might be in luck. Royal Crown for the win. That might be all we're left with, sir.
Right?
But if you do that, you got to have a moon pie.
I went the other day to go get some Coke. They were even out of the store brand, the Big K.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that's a pretty serious ingredient problem then.
Right? The problem is, the thing is, there's no will to bring American manufacturing back. That's the problem. Right. And it's not the government doesn't have the will. They kind of don't, but they don't. But they do a little. They kind of don't.
They kind of don't, but in the respect of lobby influences and big money influences, the will is directly proportional to the bullshit.
Right. But the investor class has no desire or will to bring in American manufacturing back, because they see, again, it makes no economic sense. It makes no logical sense
to them.
of why wouldn't you do this? But we can make backpacks in America. Not only can we make backpacks, I want to point this out, we can make them faster and better than anyone else. The problem is, from the point of these investors, is, but it costs so much money, and I don't get a 500% markup in my imagining. They aren't getting a 500% markup now because the cost of shipping has gone up so much, and the cost of raw materials has gone up so much because their house of cards that they built with these ridiculously convoluted logistics chains broke down. But
Yep.
yeah, we can make. North Carolina tomorrow could become the textile manufacturing capital of the United States again, just overnight, if we wanted to.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all unfurls. And if you like this topic, you'll love our main topic tonight. We're going to dip back into labor, unions, etc. Closing us out here, Brian, is we certainly can make them faster, better, and stronger, but they cost $6 million. And that's the place that we're up against now, is the reckoning of greed, I think.
Yeah.
The cost all of a sudden seems like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe that's all right. Well, let's wash this down with a little something, huh? It's time for our first break for beer, and we call this one What You Drinking. David, who goes first here? I've already got mine almost done. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go first, because I'm pouring mine right now.
So tonight, both of my beers come from Upper Hand Brewing. I don't think I've done an Upper Hand on this show before, but I might have.
I feel like you've done one.
I may have, like right when we got back from the trip we took to the Upper Peninsula, the UP. So for those that have never encountered a person telling them about Michigan, it usually starts like this. I'll go over here. It's easier to see over here. The mirror effect of the camera. And people point to where they're at or where they're from on the mitten. So the upper hand refers to the other hand that enters the equation in whichever format you choose to describe the Upper Peninsula. So upper hand is up there, and we stopped at this tiny little market to get some smoked fish and some pasties. Both of these things being very popular indigenous items, and they had a whole case of Upper Hand, and I asked about the case and the brewery, and the guy said, here's the thing. There are a couple of exclusives in there that you can only get in the case. So you can get it all over the state, but you got to get the case, get the exclusives. Like, all right, fine, I'll buy your case. So the first one I'm starting with this evening is Lost in the Pines. I'm going to jump into the big screen here so people can see the can. I do like their designs. And also, because I'm a nerd about product graphics, I really respect when somebody figures out how to repeat a system. And a lot of breweries are starting to do this thing where they have a generic can that's printed with static elements that belong on every beer. And then they slap a label around it, which has got to be less expensive than a vacuum formed label. And that has the customized stuff for each variety of beer. So this guy is double dry hopped American IPA. Let me pull up my cheat sheet review over here. 7.5%. I've actually had a couple. It definitely meets the piney that you would expect from Lost in the Pines. I've had a couple of these already, having them sitting here in the fridge, and I like this when I'm really looking for that definite pine. Like, I'm going to open this, I'm going to get a piney IPA. Like, that's a given. I know this is going to happen. This is directly on brand for this beer.
It's Yankee Abita.
That is not a terribly inaccurate thing to say. That's true.
For those of you who don't know, Abita Turbo Dog is probably one of the oldest kind of craft brews in the South, and it is. Most people, when they first have one, they liken it a lot to Pine Sol.
It's not quite that far along, but the variety pack. This is a different variety pack than the one I got. I was trying to cheat and look at their their variety pack breakdown because there's a couple. I think this one is one of the exclusives you may only be able to get in the pack. I'm looking at their year-round. Here's their seasonal specialty. Getting there. Here's a variety pack. Where's the variety pack that I have? There it is. Mix and match 12 pack is what they call this one. 4 iconic UP brands. And I think in this, 1 or 2 of these are exclusives. It might just be one. I'm trying to find that out. I'll find it out by the next break. Or I'll look it up while you do yours. But that's, again, Lost in the Pines, Upper Hand Brewery, American IPA. Very, very good. I like it a lot. What you got, buddy?
So I have Pinkus.
Oh, boy.
Munster Alt. So this is, I guess, a uniquely German beer. I'm trying to find where to put this because it's somewhere in between a Belgian and a Pilsner. I would liken this best to a very mild farmhouse saison. It's got a ton of carbonation. I've been watching it. It's just going wild with this carbonation. I feel like I've lost like a significant amount of beer just to gas. I'm drinking this and it's going down a lot faster than I thought it would. I'm like, I've only had like 3 sips of it. I haven't been gulping the thing. Yeah. It's got a really interesting, when I had that smelt or spelt. Yeah. Spelt.
Oh, yeah.
Beer a couple of weeks ago. It's a lot like that. It's got a little bit of graininess to it, but it also has, I'm going to place it somewhere along the lines of like a light lemon flavor, but just the tart of the lemon in the back, not the citrusy note, but like lemon juice. And it kind of happens in the back of the mouth. It's not bad. This would definitely fall under, despite its privileged providence. This is a mow in the lawn beer, is what this is.
Okay.
This is a very mow in the lawn beer.
Quite a name for a mow in the lawn beer,
right? But it's really simple. It's super simple. I do get a kind of a kick over the world's first organic brewery since 1816. What genetic modification were you doing in 1816? I want to know. Granted, this is Germany. There's the possibilities. Questions have to be asked, but yeah. No, I mean it's
good.
It's a mow in the lawn beer. It's nothing fancy. It's got that little bit of lemon flavor that's hanging out in my mouth a lot. It's really carbonated. Other than that, it's got a little tiny grainy flavor, but it's just normally clean. It's like that, like a Pilsner with a lemon bite to it.
I keep threatening to do it, but before we can get out of this break, we always have to give a little love to our loyal viewer, buddy, and contributor Brian. So as usual these days, Brian brings us the third rail of our show, which is the inhaled recreation. And tonight, Gorilla Crip, 25% THC, loose buds, not a fave. Very dusty. Dusty is a good thing. It's kind of sticky, very aromatic. Reminds me of myself. Overall, very pleasant. Get the job done. Nothing to write home about. Okay. Now I keep threatening to do this, to pull Brian in a little split screen, just so he can blow some smoke on our screens via his camera and give us this review himself. So we may work on that. And also, Brian, be prepared. It might be a good time to debut that during our soon to be announced Oktoberfest episode. And if you are watching, or a regular viewer, or you go back and watch this later, or whatever, we found out last year it was a lot of fun to just invite anybody that wanted to get on, anybody that was willing to put their camera on, be on screen. throw them in and have a little Oktoberfest party. So we will announce that soon, and we will take anybody that wants to fill up the grid for a group discussion, group drinking, group smoking, group whatever. Well, maybe not whatever.
Because Lucas wants me stop bitching because my fridge is filling up with various Marzens, and it's starting to piss me off.
David's been stocking up apparently, as opposed to me, where I've got like maybe 2 that are appropriate. I'm going to go shopping before that show. But we will announce that soon.
I keep on getting ones from some, some from Reds, some from other places, because I know that they're only available for a limited amount of time before the like the pumpkin apocalypse happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've got to restock for pumpkin apocalypse.
Yeah, that's true.
So I've got to get them.
I am now going to hold Olivia to the promise of drinking Marzens from a hot tub in Maine. So we'll talk about the timing and make sure that occurs in Maine, because I think Marzens from a hot tub in Maine has alliteration that I just can't not adore. So now it's on to the first topic of the evening. Now, those that know us know that we do a little split up. Sometimes one of us will bring something that we're particularly incensed about to the table, and it'll be a pet topic of the evening. And tonight, that goes to me because I am in the middle of beginning some cranky online resistance to a local candidate. And we're talking about this guy, Drew Robbins. He is running for commission in my district, my ward, Mr. Robbins. And well, Drew's got this nice little mailer about, how he was in some kind of not real soldier program, reserves or something.
Ouch.
I know. I'm ready to drop the bombs. And then a picture of him with like a bunch of youngish people and one like token Asian friend or in-law. And then him with old folks that must be maybe his parents or could very well be like a previous commissioner or something. And he keeps, sending cute little mailers out. He figured out that his signs needed to be red because he is the conservative sleeper. And what's funny is on social media, I've seen him talk about like Star Wars and musicals, and he and I would have the same interests, but his approach has really kind of pissed me off. I like Brian. He looks like a total bastard. He might be. So the first sign that we had in this race.
I just want to point out, the Riker is never the right option.
The what?
The Riker is never the right option.
Oh, right. Yeah.
90s, okay, maybe. 80s, sure, absolutely. 2000, we're pushing it. I know. I used to have the Riker. In modern day America, no, the Riker is the Riker is your automatic signal that this is probably a bad man.
Well, I'm not quite prepared for bad, but I'm gonna talk shit about his general ramp up. So what had happened was a few months ago we were getting these shit-tastic mailers, which I have marked up for tonight, as you can see, that were basically just like really full of shit. And then we got another one that was talking about response time for the cops, which seems like, anyway, I'm going to break all these down in a second. And then the last one, which was my favorite, went and named one of our current commissioners, Kurt, by name, which made it very clear that this was on behalf of the forthcoming actions of the candidate. But these are from a mysterious PO box that no one really knows who owns it or whatever, and it's a real fucking journey to try to get that information, even though it should be public.
Now, how is ownership of a PO box not public info? I don't understand. Anyway.
It's in this really murky area apparently. If you are the person to whom the piece was addressed, allegedly, you can go all the way to the bulk mail office in your area and bring an ID and show the piece, and they have to tell you, according to Business Reddit, which is, I'm taking that with a big grain of salt.
Yeah, it's Reddit. It's always going to be like
it's like business mail Reddit where I found this discussion. So it could be legit or it could be fucking bullshit. But anyway,
was it addressed to you, or was it just simply addressed to Resonant?
Well, they were addressed to the lady for some reason. I think it's because she changed her license first. I don't know. She did something to get on their fucking radar. Nothing comes addressed to me, weirdly enough. I'm the Politico in the house. So I've been jumping Drew's shit in social media a little bit, asking him hard questions that he doesn't want to answer, obviously, because he's ignored them. But I did tag him in our neighborhood unfiltered group, which I know is where I can usually say the things I want to say and no one will ban me. His response was, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'd love to have a conversation sometime. And I put pictures of these. I put pictures of these up and I said, the only conversation you need to have, Drew, is to completely disavow and disagree with the content of these 3 mailers. Otherwise, they're yours and you own them. And when you disavow them, you could just tell us who sent them so that we know that it's not you. So I basically firmly put the ball in his fucking court. But just a quick rundown of some of the bullshit. First of all, violent crime is on the rise in Grand Rapids. It's straight up a lie. Like by any statistical measure, it's coming back down. And then a thing that they've enjoyed doing in this is smearing the edges of topics. So shootings increased 540% from 2015 to 2020. Now, that statement I just read verbatim. What that stat actually is the statistic for the firing of weapons. So the number of times a shot went off from a weapon went up 540% between 2015 and 2020. Spoiler alert, mostly in 2020. And what's interesting to me is the kind of knuckle-dragging shit-heel rednecks that he's clearly trying to appeal to, or whoever his dark money benefactors are that sent this shit. They're clearly trying to relate to these nationalist, white, Christian, gun nut fucking jackoffs who in any other context are entirely fine with yeehaw, blam, blam, blam. But as soon as the darkies do it, oh, we got a crime problem, which is basically the roots of the NRA. So,
well, no, I want to clarify. That's not the roots of the NRA. That's the roots of the modern NRA. Once civil rights happened and the NRA got taken over by white supremacists. I always have to point this out. The NRA did not begin as a white supremacist organization. They became a white supremacist organization.
That's fair.
By virtue of people coming in and taking over the organization, in the same way the Republican Party went from being a semi-rational, small government, local solutions party, into a theo-fascist organization.
The roots of the modern NRA is the fair way to phrase that. And it's just fascinating to me that if this were like any given rural community and there was a 500% increase in gunfire, they would have, first of all, never acknowledged it. They would have definitely called it gunfire. And they would have just said, well, you know, we weren't working. We had that damn pandemic hoax, and so we were all on the range. But you get a bunch of brown people in the city that decide to just, you know, shoot at some random shit in their backyard, or maybe each other, but it does not match the actual injuries or assaults or murders. So it's not that. And then you get the 38 murders in 2020.
I also want to point out 500% increase. How many did you start with is the question.
I'd have to go back.
And well, I mean, that whenever you see a massive jump like that in crime statistics, it's like, oh, well, they were 300%. There was a 300% rise in murders.
Well,
how many murders were there before?
Right. And
there was one, and then you had another bad incident in which 3 people died, and you called that a 300% increase in murder.
Exactly. Right? That's part of the cherry picking that's going on for sure. because but the FBI statistics use smaller percentage numbers. They don't take the the full number and then duplicate it every 100%. They actually do like different metrics that make things like 30%. They make things like adult grown up.
Yeah.
So a 422% increase in murders in 2020 from 2018. And this is among the national increase in 2020. This is not a unique thing, but this fucking shithead is trying to paint it as being a Grand Rapids first ward problem that the current leadership deserves to be blamed for, when in reality, the whole country went nuts and people started killing people more. Especially people that were sick of each other's shit and stuck inside together. So it's overall down in the grand arc. If you look back, it's like, it's coming down, and then 2020, and then it comes right back down. We all know this. Well, we don't all know this, but those of us that believe in science and math, it's obvious. It's nationwide. It's very well documented. It's very well demonstrated. 1,200 aggravated assault cases in 2020, 200 more than 2019. Well, it's another COVID spike, and now it's way down below the previous level that they try to act like was the floor. And the same on business-related burglaries, which is another COVID spike. They're only measuring 2019 to 2020, and now they're ignoring the fact that in 21 and 22, burglaries are down below like 2018. So it's a bunch of bullshit cherry picking. And then this one's my favorite. I just love this. Only 52% of First Ward residents feel safe in their city. Meh. By what measure? By what measure, Maud? By what measure, Earl? Who the fuck did you ask, and by what measure?
And how did you?
I don't feel safe. Why? Because of COVID, maybe? I bet there are people there that said in the survey, I don't feel safe because of fucking COVID. Well, they're our people. They're probably not the people they want to vibe with this mailer. And there are probably some old white people that I don't feel safe because there were black people that were like on their porch in 2020 because they had nothing to do. Meh. Fuck them. Fuck these fucking fearmongers. So anyway, the next one is more of the same. So you've got violent crime rates soar, police response times are getting slower, and it's not even a metric that they keep.
Police response times to what though? I mean, this is
that's exactly what I was looking at. It's not a metric that matters. First of all, police response time is a very generic term. But then they say research shows increased funding for public safety leads to faster response times. David, would you like to know where that research comes from?
Go for it.
I'll give you two guesses before I tell you. I bet you can figure it out.
Where the research on response times comes from?
No, the research on increasing funding having an effect on faster response times.
Is it the Fraternal Order of Police?
So close.
Oh, it's not the Fraternal Order of Police.
Think the same, but take out the rabble. He's stumped, ladies and gentlemen. The PERF, the Police Executive Research Forum, the lobby and think tank made up entirely of the command members of police forces.
I'm going to be honest. I think I knew that was a thing. I just willfully didn't care.
So, so this would be the rough equivalent of David and I publishing a study that said, with more beer, Lucas and David are more entertaining. So you should give Lucas and David more beer.
And our audience.
Fucking of course we feel that way.
We are definitely more entertaining when you all have had more to drink.
That's definitely true. But like, what a bullshit thing to reference. It's a self-serving stat. The people that want to make a big fat paycheck as police leaders want more funding to no shit. So there's that. And then there's no mention of the number of cops that respond to any of these incidents, which any Grand Rapids residents will tell you like 5, 6, 7, 8 people on one fucking traffic accident. It's an allocation problem. They've always had a resource allocation problem. They don't understand how to respond in kind. And
because
I
they're
don't give
bored.
a fuck if it's 28 minutes. If your
know
shit
what?
has already been robbed, fuck you if you wait 28 minutes to file your report and show the cop around.
I mean,
You're not in danger.
I want to point out, if you have 7 or 8 cops at a traffic accident, you know what that tells me? Because Metro doesn't do that, right?
No, Nashville doesn't do that because they know they can't afford to.
I was an hour late to work the other day because 3 fucking semi-tractor trailer trucks jackknifed one after the other on I-24, right? And one
That's
of them
almost impressive even for I-24.
One of them managed to break its trailer carrier, right? And the trailer to come off at a perfect 90-degree angle to the rest of the interstate, right? So all the lanes of traffic were blocked. And it gets better. The trailer, what was in the trailer? Nothing but bags of sand. So they were trying to call in cranes to move this trailer that is now not on wheels off the interstate. We want to know how many cops were at the scene on that?
What, 2?
2.
Yeah.
There were 2 cops.
And let me guess, they're both state troopers?
No, they were Metro.
Oh, okay.
One was there to direct traffic. The other was there to point at you and yell. That was it. That's Metro. Welcome to an actual semi-functional police department some of the time.
Well, I've reminded them frequently that Nashville has fewer cops per square mile than Grand Rapids, but Grand Rapids wants to piss and moan about not having enough cops.
Right, but I want to point out, all it took was the 2 cops, right? Now, Granted, the traffic was awful because there were no lanes open. They had to file 5 lanes of traffic down to the shoulder.
Yep.
To get it out and around this. But I mean, it didn't take 7 cops for that, right?
So then the last one.
I just want to point out 7 cops at a traffic accident tells me that that crime is not a big issue and that these people are just bored.
The last one is the one where he takes the direct attack on my man Kurt Reppert, the only commissioner that I truly like. They dropped the first ward, 52% feel safe stat again, which, by the way, in the other wards, it's I wrote it down somewhere. 65% in the third ward and 70% in the second ward. So my question to the first ward is, what the fuck is wrong with you pansies that you don't feel safe in your city compared to the other fucking wards? I live here. I feel safe. End of fucking story.
I mean, your wards are smaller than our districts, right?
The whole city is smaller. Well, no, that's not true because Nashville has a ridiculous amount of fucking districts. So you could throw a football across half of them. But
yeah,
no, the wards here, I would say they're comparable to some of Nashville's largish districts, but the city is a third of the size in a bunch of different ways. And so, I mean, it's fine. The wards are fine. The representation is fine, 2 per ward, whatever. This clown, he keeps talking about like, I'll be responsive, unlike current leadership. I think what you mean is current leadership is too responsive to too much of a diverse amount of people, except for Commissioner O'Connor, who we know is famously not responsive. Maybe Drew should just wait till next fucking cycle and run for O'Connor's future vacant seat on that example because it applies to fucking O'Connor. But anyway, and plus his politics appear to be more in line. So in the one where they attack Kurt, they run down all these things that to a lot of us are not a problem. Voted to cut the GRPD by roughly 9 million, which sounds like big numbers to fucking Cletus. Almost 20% of the police budget down to the minimum required by the charter. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's what we want. That's called a leader that actually is doing the shit that we asked. And then the other one voted for cut GRPD budget by almost $400,000. Well, I think we all know that that's like 5 bazookas,
right?
And they don't need those anyway.
They're not they're not bazookas. They are Carl Gustav recoilless rifles.
Yeah, whatever. But they're overpriced fucking military equipment, probably. So then you get the middle points where he says he talks about him declining. So this is something that's been a sticking point for me. And one of the ways I knew that Kurt was a leader that I was in favor of. he voted not to accept $500,000 in federal aid for the COPS program, which would temporarily, for a period of time, fund the addition of 4 cops. His point was that's not sustainable. Later on, we're going to be on the hook to pay their salary when the federal money runs out. And while we're trying to figure out ways to trim how much money we give to police, this is definitely the wrong choice. And he was the one motherfucker that voted that way. The rest of them, including other people of color who had spoken out in the past on that commission about wanting to defund and reduce the amount of investment in militarized police that we have in this city, they all fucking sold out to that except him. And again, I don't consider that a detractor. And then Reppert discussed.
If I were Kurt, I would hit back. I would hit back really simply and be like, "So you're not in favor of fiscal discipline?"
Well, yeah, and that's. I don't know if it's going to have to be that way, because if you just judge on general vibe and the distribution of signs, you know. Gee, Joe, Tampa 5-0 got HIMARS. They ain't playing. That's hilarious.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did.
The last point on their little timeline of character assassination bullshit is Reppert discusses disarming the police, asking Chief Windstrom questions about budget implications if GRPD disarmed officers. The actual context of that was that he said, our citizens and the community have called for things like different uniforms and the demilitarization of police equipment. And I'm sure there would be some budget implications. For instance, if you had to buy a different sort of uniform, or even budget implications from even the sale of equipment that you eliminated. So what would those budget implications be? And this was discussed in a budget meeting, but they have tried to make it like it's my idea to change the uniforms and disarm the. No, the people have asked, and now I'm curious what
I'm not gonna lie.
Implications will be.
If he was talking about fucking disarming the police, I would vote for him all day long. I'd be like, why can I not make you governor or president?
Well, there are quite a few people that have definitely noticed that is a piece of his consideration, and they're very interested in voting for him. Drew hasn't done himself any favors with this fucking bullshit, and until he decides to tell us who actually sent those and disavow and disagree, I will continue to lay these mailers on him and just consider them the opening salvos that he's too much of a fucking pussy to acknowledge and own himself.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing I got to say about a local council race. Most of the time, there's no reason for this bullshit. I have no, like, honestly, I was shocked. Like, what lost Freeman? It's this woman Freeman who's now running for state representative in my district, but she ran for council.
Freeman, any relation?
Huh?
To the Bill Freeman that ran for mayor?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I didn't investigate it
apparently.
And and her proponents have been very vile and violent. But
well, of course,
they made a whole deal about the fact that my councilman. So I don't know if my councilman is Jewish, and you know what? I don't care. But you know what his last name is? Rosenberg.
I mean,
right? I don't care if he's Jewish.
Talks, quacks. I mean,
but here's the thing.
I don't care either, but it's not out of line to say, I think he might be Jewish.
They made an issue over, well, he's actually secretly a they tried to say, well, he's an import San Francisco liberal. And people were being like, what? What are you talking about? What San Franciscan moves to fucking Bellevue?
He's been there since the dawn of time.
Yeah, we're like, what are you talking about? Oh, I know what you mean by San Francisco liberal. Oh, you mean Jewish.
Okay, dog whistle. Maybe gay.
No, he's very much married.
No, I'm saying the implication that they'd like to make.
Like people,
because remember, for the conservative, being married has nothing to do with being closeted. I mean,
Oh, this is also very true. But back to the point. People were looking around. From the Arkansas Rosenbergs. Yes, from the Arkansas Rosenbergs.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but I mean,
interesting.
but I mean, the dog whistle. I mean, like, but the thing is, what lost her that race, right? Was like decisively lost her that race. Was people looked around and they said, "You sent out this mailer that openly called that like was just vile and disgusting," and
So she
people
was
pointed
running
it,
against him,
for council,
and now she's running
for state rep.
in the Republican ticket.
Yes, Caleb
Did she get
Hammer was
nominated?
what?
Did she get nominated?
Yeah, mostly because no one else was going to run for it.
And who's the
Apparently,
opposition? Is it Rachel?
no. This guy out of nowhere, Caleb Hammer. For this is for state house. Just to clarify.
Okay,
Heidi Campbell is running for the federal seat, and she
Heidi
might
Campbell.
actually pull it off.
Okay.
Because Ogles is so Trumplican that.
Hammer.
But Caleb Hammer, this guy who I'd never heard of, randomly dark horses out of nowhere, and is beating him up. I actually questioned, like, is this guy a Republican plant? I don't know. Well, no, because like
no, he's a lawyer. The Hammer.
Actually, he is.
Is he? Oh my God! If he doesn't have Hammer billboards, then
No, someone else already has that.
Yeah, but there's clearly 100% no governance on stepping on that theme.
Well, no, but anyway, there actually is. It's called Rule 8 in the Model Code of Professional Responsibility. Yes,
my God.
There actually is a rule. Hey, listen, dude.
What is the radius, David, for lawyers that are allowed to own the Hammer gimmick? Is it 40 miles?
It's 35, actually.
Oh, God.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, he dark horses out of nowhere, and he's fighting her. I actually saw one household that apparently has issues because they have a giant Michelle Freeman sign and two giant Caleb Hammer signs on their lawn, and I'm like,
somebody's sleeping on the couch. I don't know who. maybe it's a contest. Whoever has the most signs gets the bed.
And I got a big kick out of that. But it's you launch attacks like that, especially in a council race, and you got to look at that person and be like,
yeah,
it's the council, dude.
Well,
it's the council. I mean, and with the commissioner race, it's the commission. It's not federal office.
I know what he's going to say.
It's not even high state office.
He's going to say, those aren't me. This is me. See, I'm just going to say hi, and I've just got these pictures. Yeah, I'm just me. I don't have anything to do with those mailers because
that's up again. Does he have the Riker?
Because standard really Republican.
Maybe I misjudged the man. Does he actually have the Riker? Hold the picture up again. Because I tried to search him on Facebook.
Like that?
I'm going to call that the Riker. I don't know.
I mean, you could go off of the other ones if you want.
Well, see, the other ones, it looks like he has the full chin strap, which it doesn't make it as easy. But on the front page of the other one, I don't know. That's definitely Riker-ish. That look like from what I can see from my end, that looks like the Riker. I don't know.
It's a little bit, yeah. Well, whatever. He might be a nice enough guy, but he's the hand-picked candidate of the rich and powerful here, which is an automatic red flag. And then all this fucking bootlicking garbage that he's connected to on these other mailers. So that's why I come to the conclusion. Sorry, Junior, those are lies, and I'm gonna take him to task for it over the course of the next few days as best I can.
Do it. Like, show up at his events. Call him out.
I might go that far. We'll see. I got to work on the wearing my fuck Trump hat downtown this weekend because we have the largest crowds that we ever see for Art Prize. Isn't that a Getty Images pic of narcissistic white man? And with that, we will close. Actually, back to the police funding real quick because I like this. Fucking police funding. GOP pussies whine about police funding decrease while simultaneously saying, when seconds count, the police will be there in minutes. police funding is just another piece of the mythology. It's standard issue grifting. They just want to play army, and none of them could make it into the actual military. And they're usually broken, twisted pieces of shit that have no business interacting with other humans, much less having authority.
A lot of them do. And, I honestly, I firmly support the idea of a national registry and a national police academy. I think that would solve a lot of problems to say, hey, if you want to be a cop in again, my favorite imaginary place, Lower Bucksnort, Tennessee, then you need to go to the National Academy and be accepted and go through their course.
Yep.
And then you can get a job as a police officer in Lower Bucksnort.
Yep. Well, with that, folks, it's time for another round. And David, you're going to go first on this one. And I'm going to duck out.
Where's the video?
Well, I'm going to duck out while you go first because my nose has rebelled and allergies are ahoy. And if I don't do something about it, I'm going to sneeze all over this microphone, and no one's going to enjoy it.
I'm over here sneezing over in the corner. Come on, dude. Like
you can sneeze in the corner all you want. But since you take 4 bathroom breaks like a 67-year-old pregnant woman, I'm gonna leave you to your own and let you lead us in on another round. So, with that, we go to David for the next beer.
Just go ahead and go solo screen, you asshole. Shit. So I have our Tailgate Barrel Project Pumpkin Spice Latte. Now, I'm going to clarify. I was in lazy mode when I picked this. I really was, because I have some in my fridge. And as I was explaining to Lucas earlier, I have a limited amount of room in my fridge because I cook. I actually do like to make my own food on a regular basis, which means that my room for storing beer and other beverages is limited because I like to actually store food in there where it stays cold. So I needed to get this out, so I went ahead and put this on the list today. So I have actually had this before. And I want to compare it real fast because for those of you in Nashville, there's 2 different pumpkin spice lattes from Tailgate right now. There's what I'd like to call the civilian version, and then there's the Barrel Project version. The civilian version is the best way to describe it is it's pumpkin and then coffee and then a little bit more pumpkin and sugar. This, on the other hand, is espresso, very dark espresso, and then a hint of pumpkin, and it finishes with a little bit of that sugary pumpkin spice.
So it was also aged in fucking Heaven Hill bourbon barrels for 10 months, and it's a 9.8, so it's definitely not the civilian version.
No, it is definitely not the civilian version. But it's, I gotta say, as the art, people keep on trying to play around with the art of pumpkin spice beers. Some people make them very sweet, and that can actually be good. Some people half-ass them, and it can still magically be good because pumpkin spice forgives many sins as long as you add enough of it. This is I really like this one, and I'm going to put this up there with some of my favorites simply because the front end of the espresso really makes the pumpkin spice stand out in a good way, because it's not just coffee, it's espresso. And I'll be honest, Brian, even if you hate pumpkin spice, this is not that kind of beer, right? It is coffee, is extremely coffee forward. And then it finishes with that sort of finish with pumpkin spice, which is not what a lot of people who do pumpkin spice beers do, right? They don't normally, they normally want pumpkin spice forward and then maybe a lager or an ale back end. And that they're relying on the power of that nutmeg, especially nutmeg and cinnamon, to carry over to the end. And so it's, you get, basically, cinnamon nutmeg flavored lager or cinnamon nutmeg flavored ale.
Are you in a growler for that?
No,
You got a package?
I do.
Show that off so the people can spot it in the store, David.
Did I already? Well, it's not in the store. You have to go to the
never mind.
brewery.
Well, but you can get it in cans at the brewery, right?
Did I already toss it? Yes, I did. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me.
Brian does not believe that there can be pumpkin spice in a secondary or tertiary.
There we go.
Oh, good job. See, up here, we don't do that because all the cans are worth 10 cents and they only scan if they're round. You've tortured the poor label, so I don't know if I can actually criticize it. It looks just nothing against the designers at Tailgate, but it looks a little amateur GeoCities style there, but maybe it looks better when it's not.
No, it's
Fucking
amateur.
mangled.
It's definitely amateur GeoCities style. I will say this: can design is not their forte.
Well, some of them have been cool. I mean,
No, there have been zero cool can designs.
I'm a sucker for the schnacks. The schnack labels I like.
If you want to, the Tree series has some cool labeling. I have a
yeah,
schnack.
they do. Yeah,
I have a schnack actually in my cooler. Another Tailgate
PB&J schnack.
Yeah, this is actually really good. I almost considered doing this as another one, but I just kind of wanted to do as a throwaway this evening. But if you ever get the chance, again, that's also not for distribution. You have to go to the brewery. But it's the really cool thing about it as a schnack, because Lucas and I normally get into fights about the schnack series from Tailgate. Because I normally think they're too sweet and it's not my bag. This one is really cool because
I, on the other hand, am a fat kid about my dessert beer. So
right, this one is really cool. The schnack, and I'll briefly mention it, is really cool because it has a jelly flavor and then a clear peanut flavor, and then it ends with the what is it?
The pastry stout touch.
No, it's not pastry stout. It's what is it? Blackberry. It ends with a clear blackberry finish.
That's cool.
So I mean that's what's really cool about it, is like it gives you a little bit of jelly, it gives you a clear peanut, like super clear, like you like you can taste as it moves down your tongue. Which again, for those of you who haven't watched the show yet, that is like my fetish for beer, is when it can give you distinct flavor profiles as it moves down your tongue.
Yeah.
That makes me horny for your beer right there. That's my fetish, dude.
I need an adult. Well, if it's my turn, let's get on with an experiment that you're going to enjoy. This could either go horribly wrong or not. So in my continued upper hand review streak, I'm getting out of my comfort zone. Yes. Pink Damsel, which again,
what notes are in Pink Damsel?
Big fan of the way Upper Hand does their graphics and labeling.
I like that. That's not bad.
Sour ale with grapefruit and sea salt. Don't ask me where we got sea salt up here. I don't know.
I mean, the St. Lawrence River is right there. I don't know what to tell.
So,
I mean, I feel like you go.
Right,
I feel like you go yell at a
Canadian.
I feel like you go yell at a Canadian in French, and they'll throw sea salt at you. I feel like,
and to be clear about the geography, Upper Hand is I forgot what town, but it's more convenient to drive there from Green Bay than anywhere in Michigan. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So it's only a 4%. And one of the reviews that is one of the first reviews on Untapped, a lot less horrible than I expected. Still going to drink these first from the sampler pack just to get them out of the way.
Jesus.
So I wasn't terribly encouraged.
That's not encouraging.
Sour and Goza is not my favorite. but sometimes I encounter one, and grapefruit is the secret weapon to
I
earning my
when
love.
you come down, Tailgate actually has a watermelon gose that tastes like Jolly Ranchers. It's ridiculous, but again, too sweet for me. You would love it, this fat kid.
So it smells way worse than it tastes. When I sniffed it earlier while you were talking, I snuck a little whiff, and I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna hate this shit." But actually,
What's on the nose?
it's pretty refreshing. That kind of fermenty, rotty fruit thing that sour can give you.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think what saves this is that it's only 4%. I think if it were stronger and had a little bit more boozy touch, it would taste more like a fermented fruit than the crisp, refreshing sour kind of touch that we're getting. I don't hate it. I definitely think higher of it than the person that wrote that review. But I still think I might align with their drink these first and get them out of the way. But there are two other varieties of beer in that pack that I'll get to in future shows, and those may not even be preferable to this, because this does the trick in some ways. It's got a kind of a crisp lemonade kind of vibe. Like it doesn't stick
that's
around.
what I figured.
It doesn't stick around and make you just sit around all day going like it's there and it's out, and it's refreshing enough. So I don't.
So it's a
hate
mow
it.
the lawn.
No, because
No?
because the sea salt element, I keep wanting to just keep drinking more, and you need to be able to put that thing down unless you're on a riding mower. Insert irresponsible comments about drinking while driving mower. I am the grapefruit whore.
You really
that is
are.
true. All salt is sea salt. Fair point, Brian. Fair point. I was just going for the low-hanging regional fruit. Smells worse than it tastes. That's not an endorsement.
Dude, so I elected not to put. I'm going to mention another tailgate beer here. I know I'm on a little bit of Tailgate Fest, but I went there and got a couple of packs.
He just opened the cooler and went
right, like build your own 4-pack moment. So I had it from the tap, and it was awful. And they swore to me it would be better canned. I'm like, okay, I'll get it canned. And then I had it later from the tap. And this is why I didn't put it on, because normally, for those of you watching at home, I normally want you to have my first unvarnished opinion of a beer, which is why I feel bad. Like, I've had this before. And so normally when I do this, I like to give you all my blatant unvarnished opinion of a beer.
I shamelessly do repeats, so it balances out. Pumpkin spice, anything is gay as a French horn, and not in a good way.
Oh, it's okay. For this barrel project, I'll tickle the balls.
Oh my!
It's really good. But one of the others, so this cookies and cream beer from Tailgate had a horrible smell coming straight off the tap.
It sounds like I'd love that though.
No, but it was nothing but pure alcohol coming off the tap.
Oh,
literally, you could treat a wound with this. It's been shot. Get the cookies and cream. But as it got down a little bit on the keg, it got better. And so I realized, okay, so the can is actually probably going to be better than, apparently, however this beer, brewed, however it wanted to sit in the keg, is it let all its alcohol phenols get all the way up to the top and just hang out there. Because at first, literally, when I first went there and got it off the keg, you'd put your nose over it and it was nothing but alcohol, and you'd take your first sip and it tasted like alcohol flavored with chocolate, and it was not good. And I advise people, like when I was talking to people about like, oh, you got the cookie. I'm like, take small sips because you don't like because well, no, because the alcohol, like the thing is, if you took
Did
like
you just order this? Take small sips.
if you took a big gulp of it, like you'd get all that alcohol
Right.
off the top. And then as it's settled a little bit, it's gotten a lot better. And again, that's why I haven't put it on the show. But again, it's their barrel project stuff that they're doing in Tailgate. I gotta say, isn't bad. I have not yet touched the Brett series,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because it's hard to find at Tailgate. To walk in, like there's only one location where you're guaranteed to be able to walk in and find a Brett, and that's over in East. Everywhere else they'll be like, what? Like, and so I haven't been like, oh, I should go try one of these, especially since they're not on tap. It's only bottled.
Yeah.
So
Or
but
canned.
yeah,
They only
What?
do cans, right? Do they do
no,
bottles?
they do bottles. They do the Bretts. They bottled.
I did not know that. Okay, cool. Well, it's time for the biggin, which we admittedly thought was going to be a different kind of biggin. So apparently the trains are going to keep moving. And the question is, should they? So when we originally put together the idea, let's talk about the train strike. We were pretty sure there was going to be a fucking strike. And at the last minute, crisis averted. The funny thing is, Amtrak canceled a whole bunch of stuff because they run on commercial lines that would be affected by the strike. And there've already been some plans made as far as supply chains and other concerns. So the threat of a strike has already had an effect, and that was interesting to see. But I was absolutely sure that we'd be doing this show looking down the barrel of the full-blown rail strike to start tomorrow, I guess tonight at midnight. So crisis averted, but basically the root of this, Brian, we're just giving Brett Favre a pass. No, Brett Favre was covered within the first 20 minutes of the show.
Yeah, we already talked about him.
You gotta learn to light the bud while you tune in. So yeah, you missed it. You're gonna have to rewind. So yeah,
I didn't even get the opportunity to go into the whole connection between welfare and Jackson's water system failing. We're gonna keep on following that.
God, yeah, we will be back to it, I'm sure. So I was pretty sure it was gonna happen. I mean, and I was also kind of thinking something else might happen, David, that Uncle Joe would order them back to work, which I wasn't really sure where to err on that because it's an election year.
I don't think he would have. I don't think he would have done that. And here's why.
I don't know.
Well, because here's one of the things that pisses me off about this entire situation that I just learned, and I want to clarify. I used to date a woman who her mother was worked on the railroad and was a union organizer with the railroad. Right, it's very, very active with the union. And one of the things that always struck me, as just supremely odd is if you're a locum and to clarify, because they're talking about sick days a lot. So she got sick days because she was responsible for the control boxes, right? So she would ride the rail truck down the line that you see every now and then, those trucks that are designed to ride the rails, and go to the control boxes and fix the control boxes that controlled the signals, right? That was her job. Also, sometimes obviously back at headquarters being like, okay, the control boxes are still working. Great. Or they're not, and we're in trouble.
Right.
But she got sick days, right? She could call out and say, hey, I'm sick. But she would have stories of no, I was at my kid's birthday and they said, you either come in or you get fired.
Well, and some of them were
And
operating on some kind of points system, evidently. So even if you could do sick days, you got docked points, and then there was a certain score that could get you in trouble or fired.
yeah,
And then the on-call thing has been a big deal, where they
how
would
do I
have
know
to just
Lucas
have
has
no
never worked?
life.
How do I know Lucas has never worked a blue collar job? The point system is a pretty common thing for a lot of places.
Ooh, but this was cited by multiple reports as being a particularly confusing and murky point system, which
Well,
definitely
yeah.
doesn't shock
So
me.
I mean, like you get like in a lot of places you get late, you get like a half a point. You are no call, no show, you get a full point or 2 points. If you're an
Half
hour
a
late,
point.
you get a full
Like, what the
point.
fuck is wrong with people? Why do they have to subdivide points? This is
And like if you get up to a certain number of points, then you get a written warning. If you get up beyond that, you get like what's in some places you get what's called a performance improvement plan, which is a prelude to them firing you. Just to clarify,
yeah, right.
Because you'll never meet the performance improvement plan. The performance improvement plan is there for you to fail, and then you end up with you've got enough points that you're fired. But the thing that struck me as just shocking was the fact that no locomotive operator could have a sick day.
Mm.
They can't call in and say, I'm sick. I'm actually in a similar position where I don't understand this whole system where, like, if I'm genuinely sick, I can't call in and say I'm sick. And that's one thing.
No, David, it's better for the profit margins if you come on in and make every customer sick.
Right?
In the train scenario, I can kind of see the argument.
I actually had a situation like that not too long ago where I had to be pushing an employee out of the door to be like, no, it's okay. No one's going to write you up. I need you out of here. You are sick. You are visibly ill.
At least with the train, they're mostly by themselves. But do you really want a groggy, distracted, feels like shit train conductor to be barreling down the track when there's a mishap at a railroad crossing?
One of the worst rail disasters in the past 10 years was because of exactly that. You had a inexperienced, unwell train conductor who was, again, against what should be the rules, operating a train by themselves. A train, by the way, which had a history of problematic performance. And what was it hauling? Nothing but oil. Yay. So what had happened? It blew the fuck up. And a lot of people were looking around going, why did this even happen? So, I mean, the reasoning behind the threat of a strike makes sense because CSX and Norfolk Southern and a lot of these companies have been pushing their without enough pay, right? I know people who work in this industry. I have family that works in this industry. And so often in transportation work, there is a very strong impetus to keep working more and more and more hours. I work 50 hours a week by contract, right? I need to work. I have a contract that says I'm supposed to work 50 hours a week. And I work 50 hours a week, which is why even right now, as I do this, I'm a little tired.
Yeah.
But
these people were working a lot, and they
had people working
backed up days right next to each other with very little rest.
People working 65 hours a week in some instances. And yeah, this isn't safe. And part of the problem is, of course, I fight with this with my employer. But how do you get people to come and do this? Well, you've got to make it financially attractive to them to do it. And the problem is that you've gutted the blue, like between income inequality and your profit margins, you've gutted the blue, like there is no more blue collar. There is no more middle class. Congratulations. For those of you wondering why there's no one to work at your restaurant, That's why there is no more middle class. That used to be a lower end middle class job. And now people are looking around going, why the hell would I ever do that? I can't even afford to make rent unless both me and someone else and possibly a third person are all busting our asses for 60 hours a week just to afford rent, food, health care, and a car payment. Right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. The barges are a little better, but the trains were still having a problem, which is why this strike was threatened.
I'm trying to find the details of the deal, just so we could run down. They're really meager improvements. They're not.
The pay is better. The 25% increase in pay, 24 technically, but 25% increase in pay over 4 years. That's good. I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
because there's no way a train engineer should be earning anything less than $65,000 to $70,000 a year.
I can't imagine that they weren't. That's just mind-boggling to me.
Mm-mm. These guys were earning 45.
Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Now, let me flip to the other side of this.
Because I want to point out, when's the last time these guys had a pay increase?
Well, that's true. It's been a hot minute.
No, take a guess. When's the last time?
I forgot. I heard it on one of the many reports.
Guess a number.
Fucking 20 years. 40.
About that.
Yeah. So, workers aside, because I try to not like cut off Comcast trucks in traffic because that motherfucker just works there. It's not his fault that his company is a piece of shit. And the same applies to the guy in the CSX train. So Lucas's general theory of rail, that people that are in the transportation industry for some reason seem to get very incensed at my opinion. It's almost like they treat rail the same way they treat Israel. I fucking hate Israel. I don't fucking hate Jewish people. I fucking hate rail companies. I don't fucking hate the people that work there. But rail companies are uniquely fucking shitheads in my book because they never give a fuck about the municipalities that they fuck up the ass, preferably during rush hour if they can manage to accomplish it.
So I want to clarify
up everyone by putting a railroad across an active rail across a fucking main artery, or in Nashville's case, completely isolate a whole fucking neighborhood from emergency services for hours at a time.
I want to clarify for everyone watching. So Lucas used to live on the other side of Centennial Boulevard. And the problem with Centennial Boulevard is it's also right next to the Purina plant, where they make most of your dog food.
Well, there's everything out there. There's fertilizer, there's oil and gas, there's the Purina thing, there's all this stuff.
You do realize that the fertilizer and oil and gas are also tied to your dog food because they put fertilizer and oil in the dog food.
So if there was the right kind of train in West Nashville, you couldn't get anywhere. And it happens in South Nashville on the daily. I got a guy on Facebook that is a very avid bike rider. It never fucking fails. Every time he tries to ride a route on his bike, he ends up with a photograph of waiting on a train crossing. And let me be very clear. I don't think it's wrong for traffic to stop and wait while a train.
But not when it's pulling up to the plant. That's pretty bad.
But Nashville, I learned to hate with a deep, fiery passion the greedy pieces of shit at the top of rail companies and basically any fat cat in between that wasn't a laborer trying to get by, person involved in the strike. Just not giving a fuck. And here's the biggest problem with it is that usually local politicians are goddamn pussies and they won't take on the big bad rail company and make them do better.
Well, and also CSX, the problem is part of the issue is that CSX employs so many people in Nashville, right? Nashville is a solid CSX company. Where my girlfriend lived at the time, she was in Chattanooga, and that's a solid Norfolk Southern town for the railroad.
Mhm.
But CSX, at least in Nashville, like at Union Station, which by the way doesn't handle a single passenger train,
Anymore.
shockingly, but handles tons of cargo traffic.
Yeah.
Because Nashville has 5 interstates that come out of it.
Well, and Nashville is a giant rail yard in reality. Like people don't usually understand this, but Nashville was essentially, a bunch of river shipping and rail shipping over the years. Like if you look at the rail, if you ever get a rail map of Nashville, Nashville's a rail yard. You just live there.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty intense. And yet we still don't have a functional light rail.
Yeah, of all the ironies, there's lots of rail and none of it does jack fuck to get you from point A.
Why? Anyway,
and that's what led back to the thing and during the intro that I was mentioning about Amtrak is that they're borrowing, they're trafficked in on commercial rail lines. So if this strike had happened, they would have been SOL. So they stopped a lot of routes. I haven't checked on the one here that goes to Chicago, but
no, they're all back on. They're all back on.
But they canceled. So basically, these fucking greedy shitbags are going to say, "Oh, we had to negotiate with the union. The stupid union, and always asking for handouts." And at the same time,
asking for handouts,
they're going to turn around and they're going to say, "Oh, look at Amtrak. It's such a miserable failure. It's not solvent." Blah. Well, you can't fucking make money if you have to cancel your shit because there's a strike because your greedy fucking assholes that own the tracks won't fucking pay people. Well, it's a chicken and egg equation of greedy pricks, and I'm fucking tired of it.
On top of that, I want to point out the only reason Amtrak is not profitable is because Congress, specifically Republican Congresses, have consistently sabotaged it.
That too. Kind of like the post office.
Kind of like the post office. The post office should be one. Again, slide aside. If you want to look at how a post office should operate, the most profitable industry in all of Japan is its post office.
So the rail strike didn't happen. But one of the things that we're posing here is, should it have? I kind of wanted it to happen in a perverse, sick little way.
And I want to say this why I wanted it to happen, because even with this compromise, do you want to know how many sick days the union workers got out of this deal?
I couldn't find the details. So
I found the details. How many sick days did they get out of this deal?
I don't know what they had.
0. They had 0.
Oh, that's great.
So how many do you think they got? 3?
I'm going to go with 3.
I'll give you a second guess.
Fine, I'll go with 1.
That's exactly correct, sir. 1 sick day. They get annually? 1 sick day.
Annually. Yeah.
1.
That would kind of work for me because that's what I average, and I have for 20 years, but I'm decent on general health, contrary to my poofy existence. So that doesn't work for a lot of people, especially depending on what their household is like, right? Like, what if your partner is a teacher? The volume of germs brought home does not meet with a single sick day.
1 sick day. 1.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I can't
what the fallout would have been. We've heard a lot about supply chain issues, blah, 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 really a low blow to an already struggling economy, so on and so forth. But what it might have done was actually put some real pressure toward the ultimate subject that we kind of leaned into when we promoted the show today, which is just labor as a movement, unions as a movement. And luckily, there are reports that there's a general upswing in the public view of unions and labor that we're facing, or not facing. We're seeing a lot bigger general public support for the concept, which is cool. But I don't see all of it really meaning much. Like these Starbucks unions, when I hear what they really get, I'm just like, it's okay.
The thing is, you've got to start small. And the problem is, one of the things you have to remember is union membership has fallen to 10% of the U.S. population. At the height of our prosperity, it was around 40%. And one of the things I would like to say about unions is, first of all, everyone deserves a union. Every single worker deserves a union. Everyone who's not a CEO, a director, or a general, like a regional manager of an organization deserves a union.
Yep.
If you're a general manager of a restaurant, you deserve a union. If you're an assistant manager of a restaurant, you deserve a union. If you're a server, you deserve a union. If you're a musician, you deserve a union. If you are a busboy, you deserve a union. If you are an electrician, you already have a union, and you should already be a part of it. Everyone deserves a union. If you work in an office putting shit into spreadsheets, you deserve a union.
And unions are booming. 71% favorability for labor unions in America. Higher percentage of countries seen in over half a century, according to the stats that I'm seeing here from who is this? Business Insider.
Yeah. Which is not a union-friendly publication at all.
Right. 58% of union or 58% of non-unionized workers are not interested per Gallup polling. And that's something that bothers me, because that says that the union busting propaganda has had a lot of traction. I just don't understand. I mean, when I was growing up, 80s and 90s, made in the USA was a big deal, and it mattered.
Well, no, all right. So
and
I'll
unions were a big deal, and people were proud of it.
Yeah.
And it's all in my lifetime, which is a really short, tiny fragment of American history. It's all gone fucking sideways. We don't mind bullshit from China being what we buy, and we are totally fine painting unions as some kind of grab assery when really it's the only fucking thing standing between poverty and complete deadly danger for a lot of professions.
For once, Lucas, I'm going to agree with you on a point about education and the downsides of promoting college.
What?
I know, right? For once, I'm going to agree with you on this. For those of you who have not watched our episodes, normally I'm busily trying to find a bat to club Lucas over the head with on this topic. But one of the problems of saying that, college is where you all need to go is it devalued unions because unions became associated solidly with the blue collar. And I'm going to send you to college and you're not going to be a blue collar worker. Except the reality of our economy ended up being that even though I'm wearing a white collar, I'm still in reality a blue collar worker, right? And so that separation, I think, really hurt unions, because why would you be in a union unless you were one of those poor, stupid sons of bitches, right? At least in terms of marketing. Electricians don't matter. They don't have a college degree. Plumbers don't matter. They don't have a college degree. And, when Mike Rowe kind of went Trumpian, which was, I think, one of the saddest moments of my life, to see Mike Rowe do that, for which he has still not apologized, and he should.
Would he apologize, though? I mean, isn't he still a believer? I mean, but it sucks because Captain Dirty Jobs decides to essentially throw everybody under the bus that does a dirty job.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Mike Rowe, that you're that fucking stupid. But there was a push to devalue labor in the U.S. And I feel like coming back to Mike Rowe, I feel like that he was that's what he thought he was trying to address was, well, damn it, like people are devaluing these people,
right?
But then when someone shows up and says, "Hey, I don't want to devalue people, I want to give them a union so that they can do something about it," again, people like Micro suddenly disappear, which should tell you where Micro actually gets his money from, which is not from actually working hard. It is from being an actor.
True. But even that's a little surprising.
Which I would like to point out, he has a union, which he uses.
Well, he pretty much has to. That's the amusing part. Like, you can, I mean, there are some spaces where you can be like, yeah, I'll just do this, no big deal.
Yeah, the Screen Actors Guild is not a union to fuck around with.
No, they are unforgiving.
Neither is the Screenwriters Guild, right?
You must pay you must pay day rate. Nothing different than day rate. By God, like, yeah, it's interesting that he's in such a stoic one and would have these opinions.
And would suddenly look around and be like, those emu farmers that you wanted to hang out with, they deserve a union. Yeah, okay, you're just a fucking asshole. But I mean, so does that guy who works in a cubicle. He deserves a union. And one of the problems I would argue that's happened in America, and one of the things that's led us to this point in America, is the fact that we have not prioritized. Do we have to have the same sort of system as say Germany or Greece or France, with these giant national unions that sit and negotiate with government over pay rates? I don't know.
Maybe not.
Honestly, I'm ambivalent a little bit on that idea, simply because it's worked out on one hand okay for France, on another and Germany, but then you go to Greece, it's like, it hasn't worked out so well. I do, however, agree that collective bargaining with management, with the owners of companies, is essential to the proper functioning of the economy, providing for the people who are producing it.
Yeah.
Right? So in other words, we can't have a functional economy unless I go to work, I get enough to pay my bills and probably have a little extra, right? And do so in a meaningful way. If we can't have that, then we don't really have an economy. What we have is some sort of vague, and I'm going to use this term, and I understand it might be controversial, but what we have is a vague system of slavery, in which people go to work, they don't earn enough to live and exist as anything other than workers. That is slavery, right?
Normally, I don't highlight the departing comment when someone signs off from viewing, just because it's not usually terribly remarkable. But Brian, for many years, has been an expert at humorous departures, and "gotta bail out of here like a Trump attorney" might be one of my favorite parting words. So,
but I mean,
congratulations, aloha. Yeah, you're right, David. I mean, it's I don't know, man. I was a union kid. My dad was and is a retired pension drawing member of the stagehand union, and I just, to me, there's honor and dignity in the union concept. It's one of the reasons why I despise the police union, because it's just a fucking fraternity of thugs. It's not a union. It's a council of bullies, commission of corruption, if you will. Real unions that actually do the things that they're supposed to do for labor and safety and pay, etc., that aren't just there to defend the skeezy, usually illegal, almost always violent actions of the membership, like the cops. Real unions matter, and to me, I thought it was an American point of pride. I didn't understand until I was an adult that unions were so controversial. But of course they are. You're talking about paying people what they're worth and taking care of human beings, making them whole in every way that you can, and daring to suggest that gigantic profits be partly shared down the line with the people that enabled that shit in the first fucking place. You know, it always tans my ass when anti-union sentiment comes along. I really think if this thing had happened, it would have been an interesting reckoning. I don't know where it would have gone politically, but it would have been an interesting reckoning.
Republicans obviously thought that it was going to go in their favor because they were trying to set it up, being like, "Oh, well, these price spikes and these supply disruptions are all the fault of Biden and all these other." I don't necessarily know if that would have been the case. Again, I'm kind of with you. I almost think that they should have just gone ahead and say, no, we deserve more than a single fucking day.
Right. It's kind of like a government shutdown. You know, a lot of times, you know, there's the political will to say, okay, fine, let's go there. See how you like your state parks.
Or
national parks. Whatever.
For once, I would like to see them shut down the mail. I would really like to see them say, no, we're not paying the mail carriers. We're going to shut down the mail. Not only are we going to shut down the mail, we're going to shut down, I'm looking at you, Florida, the Social Security Administration. We're not sending out the checks.
Yeah. Let's see that Naples condo rent fall behind, fuckers.
Well, I mean, forget Naples condo rent. I'm talking about, it's called the Villages. And for those of you who aren't familiar with why Florida is the way Florida is, it's because of a massive housing development that stretches for, I'm not talking about like your normal housing development of like maybe 200 houses. I'm talking about thousands and thousands of houses called the Villages. And it's a retirement community, a series of retirement communities built in Florida. That's why it's plural, the Villages.
Yeah.
And if you want to understand why Florida is the way Florida is, it's the Villages. Because it's a bunch of old white people who are like, gay people. The beast comes. So I mean, like it's that kind of like it's that kind of stupidity. Of you wonder why the boomers don't die off quick enough. They are in most places, just not in Florida is the problem. Because they have
personally, I would like to see whatever. I would love to see some solidarity strikes. Let's say the train strike had happened. I'd love to have also seen a fireman strike at the same time.
They're not going to do that. But you know what I would like to see?
That's really grabbing America by its nuts right there.
No, what would grab America by its nuts is a train strike and a Teamster strike at the same time.
Ain't shit moving around for your greedy ass to buy at that point.
Nope. Yep. Nope. Nothing. And honestly, because here's the thing. The railroads have been screwed over for far too long. Especially rail workers have been screwed over for far too long.
Yeah.
The fact that they're talking about a 25% increase in pay should tell you how far their pay has fallen behind.
That's a bunch.
And on top of that, I want to point out 25% increase in pay plus they backed off the original demand of a $5,000 bonus. It's now a $1,000 bonus distributed over 5 years.
Wait, what? 1,000 over 5 years.
Yeah, so
$200 a year.
Yeah, you get an extra $200 a year.
Like,
yeah,
one of us being mildly irresponsible about our bar tab once a year.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, we have a bad history with bar tabs.
Well, especially
we always pay them. We always pay them. They are always paid
that
on
one
time.
right there. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and this is all they're asking for, and the fact that we nearly had a crippling strike in America, just so people working in an ostensibly essential industry could afford to live. we nearly had to bring all American commerce to a stop.
Of course we did, because that's the American way. Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that time of the evening again. I hope it can happen in some other context. I think it'd be
Look
great.
at that.
But we got to jump. We got to go. We're hitting that 2-hour mark.
We are.
It's
Time
time
for us to
for probably more beer and a variety of other things. But
Yeah,
ladies and
we're
gentlemen,
going to yell at each other like afterwards. It's fine. We
as
should
always,
at some point we should do like an after show thing of like watch Lucas and David continue to like yell at each other after the show.
we'll have to start recording those behind the scenes after show moments. We'll figure out how that works. The platform doesn't facilitate that
No, it doesn't.
necessarily. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Please feel free to tell a friend. Like, follow, and do all those things. Remember, it's not about the money; it's about the patriotic duty of the hobby and the ability to just talk some shit to power, which is all we get to do sometimes. And with that, ladies and gents, we wish you, as always, good night,
Good evening
and
and good
luck.
luck.